Hello guys, welcome to SecuCybers. Today we will learn about Nat and Pat. NAT stands for Network Address Translation. Let's assume we are the host and we are connected to a DNS server. Our IP address happens to be 192.168.1.1 and we are connected to the home router, and home router is connected to the ISP. The ISP has provided us the public IP address of 1.2.3.4, and on the other side somewhere there is a DNS server or any server for instance, which has IP address 8888, which happens to be Google's DNS, and it is also connected to a router somewhere. So when this host wants to send something to the DNS server, it will create an IP packet and it will look something like this. Source, which is 192.168.1.1, and the destination will be 8888. Now the host will forward this packet to the router, and then the router will send it to the ISP. The ISP will route it somehow, and it will end up in the other side. Now the server wants to send the IP packets of its own to the host. The IP packet will look something like this. The source will be 8888. And the destination will be 192.168.1.1. Now the DNS server will send the IP packet to the router, and the router that is connected to the internet will forward it to its ISP. Then the ISP will say that it's good you want to talk, but this destination address over here is a private IP, and we do not route any private IP address. Now this packet will be dropped and it will never make it back to host. This is where the network address translation comes to play. So we have to enable it in the home router, and once we enable network address translation, our host will still create the same IP packet. Forward it to the router. Then the router will translate the source IP address to the public IP address that was received from the ISP. So the IP packet will now look like this. Now the changed IP packet will be forwarded to the ISP, and then to the router on the other side, and finally to the DNS server. Now DNS server will want to reply to this IP packet. But now it thinks that it is talking to public IP address, since it was the source. Now the server will send this packet to the router, and the router will forward it to the ISP, and then the ISP will forward it to the home router. Now this router will translate the public IP back to the private IP address that we have. So now the packet that is received will be changed, and it will look like this. And then again it will be forwarded to the host. And now everything is working fine. Here the host has no clue that IP address is being changed. Only this router knows, and the DNS server over here thinks that it is talking with this IP address. So that's how network address translation works. Now let's move on to PAT. PAT stands for Port Address Translation. Port Address Translation is an extension of network address translation that permits multiple devices on a LAN to be mapped to a single public IP to conserve IP addresses. This comes in handy when you have sent multiple IP packets to the same router through different apps or devices, or let's say tabs in a browser. Since we have sent multiple IP packets, the router might get confused that which content should be displayed where, and since we have only one public IP address, it is entirely possible that content would be displayed on the wrong device. This is where port address translation helps. It will assign a separate port number to each of the devices for each of the IP packet. So let's say I am sending 2 IP packets from different devices. Now as you can see there is an addition to the IP address, that is the port number. Now the router won't get confused since it knows exactly from where the IP packet came, and to where the IP packet should be sent back. Now if another computer logs onto the internet, the router assigns it the same public IP, but a different port number. Although both computers are sharing the same public IP address, this device knows which computer to send its packets, because the router uses the port numbers to assign the packets. That's all for this video. Do like, share and subscribe for more such content. Thanks for watching.